Kavara, you got your wish. Maui's been fired. This is now hot take. But just kidding. I'm way too nice for that show. So Kassad and Thorin can keep Maui and stay doing that. We're going to do Feed the Trolls instead and focus in on who's going to win the major. And that's where we're at. So, I mean, let's just throw it out there. Kassad, who's going to win the major?
First of all, how dare you disrespect Maui? He has an Ivy League degree.
It's true, he does.
From Columbia,
exactly.
And he knows best how to deliver his points.
You might have mentioned that a few times as you've just mentioned
it, girl? Some random host like you gonna talk shit to Maui.
Exactly.
Who's gonna win the major? We spoke about this, Duncan, didn't we? Multiple times. It's so hard to predict. There's multiple storylines that we have now, like crazy storylines. First, the most logical one, the most reasonable one, is G2. No. But Vitality, obviously, they have won 6 in a row, struggled at maybe 1 or 2, but still managed to keep it like relatively comfortable. Last final 3-0 against MOUZ in Dallas. I think they are number 1 contender. We have to say that. There is so much things going for them and against them on this major, right? If they win it, how they're going to win it, they're going to cement the legacy, whatever.
Oh, it's pressure. Yeah, for sure.
That adds a lot of pressure. If they lose it, there's going to be people like Yanko saying it doesn't really matter what they did before it. There's going to be people like Maui saying like that it does matter. But it's just like it's going to be different types of reactions from different people and the community overall, and it can affect them as a team. But it's hard to say they're not going to win it because what needs to happen, right? Duncan said it nicely in our show when he said like it's going to be easier for teams to beat Vitality when it's best of 3 rather than a best of 5, right? You can't really sit there and expect to win this against this Vitality on 3 maps in a row, right? Or whatever in the space of 1 game, because Zywoo might have a slightly bad game, but then Robs is never going to have a bad game together with Zywoo. That needs to happen, and you need to have an A game. So number 1 contender for me is definitely Vitality, but like storylines, Falcons playing good. MOUZ have a bone to pick with, obviously, Vitality because they defeated Falcons and they got over that hump. They lost 3-2 after the 13-0. Like it was like storyline for them. Then Falcons have their own storyline. Spirit, we can't forget Spirit. Like Duncan, I know you written them off in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Not completely, but in a sense, like you put them a little bit on the side or on the back wagon, I guess, of that major train. The thing is, like, they have the best player in the world, like they do, and saying that they cannot win is it's not very logical, right? But here we are saying unlogical things all the time, and we'll leave to tell the tale. But the thing is that there's also FaZe, and then there's also Aurora and the MongolZ.
Yes.
Surprise anyone outside of those like 6-7 teams, right? Maybe Liquid because it's Austin.
Just to throw them in, yeah.
I don't see any Gamer Legion type of surprises happening. Do you see anybody like that?
No, I actually think the most interesting thing about this conversation is mainly if we stick with those names. There's a lot to work with there, but there's plenty of like interactions and storylines and how would this person win and what. I actually think the most interesting thing about this major is it might seem because Vitality's won every event except the first event where they just like had the brand new lineup. It might seem like actually it's a foregone conclusion. It'll just be Vitality that wins. Well, I can tell you in history we once had a team like this who was winning everything and no one could stop them, and that was Team Liquid, and they didn't win the major. Now, true, they did have a player break between that major and this and the actual like streak, which Vitality doesn't have. But essentially my point is actually, if you ever look, because the major is like, as he said at the beginning, the major is a different type of pressure. So you can even argue, by the way, the fact that Vitality wins every event and can't seemingly lose a series makes it even more pressure if they play like Falcons in a quarterfinal or something. Like suddenly if you lose that one, it's like what he said about the ankle thing. Even though it's not totally true, that is how it will feel. Like you feel like if you lose that one, well, what was that all worth? Like it doesn't feel like that buoys you up. If anything, that's like a burden on your shoulders you've got to justify with your performance at the major, because casuals only watch the major or only remember it, and they will think it's like what happened with Spirit. I always tell people that whole discussion of Spirit needs a roster move should have been the entire second season last year, but because at the end they just snuck in and stole the major, we all just went, right, Men in Black delete that. I guess now you've got another season or whatever. But it's like they never really should have had one. You could already see they were on like fumes as terms of like winning, because I agree on that one. The other thing to me is this. Here's what does make it interesting though. One, at least the teams that like haven't so far but are close to beating Vitality are really good teams too. Like Falcons and MOUZ are really stacked squads. I agree on the Spirit one, by the way. I think on paper you shouldn't expect that the Spirit that turns up 5 days a week could actually win. But I agree, Kassad. The problem is when you have Donk, you can't totally write it off. That is like, for one player, that's the ultimate like puncher's chance to do like the fluke knockout, as it were. Like, what if he really does just drop like a 40 bomb? You can in theory beat anyone on that map. So I agree with you. But the thing for me that's interesting is you have to look at like sort of the different levels of the game, and that's where it could get exciting. Because I'll give you this, right? If Vitality plays against MongolZ or Aurora, they're probably almost certainly going to win that game. But if you think about it this way, imagine a world where the Falcons was able to upset Vitality. Can't the Falcons then lose to exactly like Aurora? That seems way more plausible, right? So all of a sudden, if you get the right bracket and the right upset at the right time, the door starts to open for the other teams to win. And that's when you really could get to a world where the ridiculous one is like, then suddenly it's like Aurora versus like you see, like Team Liquid in the final. Then maybe Team Liquid can win. Like the key thing for me is you've got to have someone, which I don't think has been written off yet. I do think if you look at, you can even argue MOUZ is getting closer. If you look at MOUZ and Falcons, I do think in those BO5 finals, ignore the like overall result, look at the individual maps. They have shown that if the right day hit, it should be possible to sneak over the line and win. And if that happens, the whole major's wide open. Also, it's not like the storyline sucks and Vitality win. That would be historic. Like, by the way, I actually do think people are missing this. If they win the major, they probably are contender for the best team to ever play CS. I know people are going to go, but Astralis with all the majors. It doesn't matter. The difference is Astralis didn't do this. No one's done this. No one. Like the closest really was NIP. Remember, they didn't have majors back then, unfortunately. I always say it's actually really unfair to NIP because they never got to win their major, which they probably would have. So that's a pretty cool argument. Like, is this the best team to ever play CS? So the stakes for this one are crazy, mate. But I agree with you. The Yanko angle's true. If they don't win the major, that whole discussion is going to go away really quickly, unfortunately.
It's going to be delayed till the Budapest.
Or you have to win the next one, true.
Then after they win a couple of more events in like the second season, they get to Budapest, maybe they win that, and
sure.
You know, then the discussion is back on. But they seem to have a problem with picking a map in a best of 3. Against Falcons, they picked Train, they lost comfortably, 13-6, 4-8, 5-2. And then against MongolZ in the upper bracket final, they picked Nuke, they lost again the same way, 13-7, 8-4, 5-3 instead of 5-2. So they seem to, in a best of 3, have this weird thing where they're not sure which map to pick, and they end up picking the wrong one. Like against Falcons, they were supposed to pick Train. They have multiple maps.
I mean, that's one of those weird ones, though. Listen, they still sound like DJ Khaled suffering from success. But the problem is, when you win every series, Kassad, your win rates get so insane that you're judging like what map to play off, like weird things. Like sometimes, for real, I'm not even joking. I have known teams where they felt more comfortable on like map B, but map A has like a 94% win rate, and they're like, "How can we not pick it?" And I'm like, "You should probably pick the one you're more comfortable on." But that is you know, that's how people are.
When it happens once, that's the thing. But when it happens multiple times in a row, then you have a problem.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right? Like you
have
also something that's not going well. Yeah.
I mean, to jump on what you said, there's so much tape on them now because they've played so many series. We've seen them on so many maps. Let's not, I mean, it's not the same because the firepower and the individual stars are there, but we saw what happened with NAVI. Like every team and their mom was studying how to beat them, right?
Yeah.
How do they play these maps? How are they doing this?
Yeah.
I imagine everyone is at a boot camp right now trying to figure out how the hell do we beat Vitality. So
and it looks like they're getting closer, by the way. So I'm like, if you look at the MOUZs and the Falcons, look, they're getting closer in these matches. They're almost winning, yeah.
And then you're going to end up coming to the major with all that pressure. Check the cat.
It's weird, like that just pops up out of nowhere. You just doesn't even address it like that.
Every time. Every time.
But I mean, that's the thing. So Vitality comes in with all that pressure, and you kind of, I mean, I presume the conversation at their boot camp is how the hell do we adapt our game now so we can at least come with something fresh to the biggest tournament of the year.
Yeah. The thing is that you have to tweak every strategy. Everybody's looking at your openers. Everybody's looking at your anchors, how they're using grenades. Everybody's trying to recognize your defaults, trying to like react to it. Everybody's going to be ready for it. So you need to sit on a boot camp alongside all that pressure that you have and think of a new ways to kind of stay on top, because like it's a one thing. People are always saying that people who have been like on the top of the various sports, right? Getting to the top is one thing, it's hard enough, but staying there is even harder, right? Because everybody is looking at you, all eyes are on you. And everything that you do is being studied, and you are setting the trend. You are setting the meta. You are changing things. People are following you, and then everybody wants to take you down. Once you are third, fourth, fifth, or whatever the team, people are kind of looking at you as a strong team, but like nobody is looking to take you down, like directly. And this is what's happening. Vitality right in front of the major. I think they're feeling the pressure, and also there is a discussion, Duncan, that we also kind of had. It's about the Paris major run for Vitality, right? If they don't manage to win this, that's going to even be like...
Yeah, you're right. People make more fun of it. Yeah, especially for Zywoo. People make more fun of it.
Zywoo, you see, when you get the right opponent in the playoffs, you choke. Yeah. You this, you that. You're not the GOAT. You're not the best. Yeah. Nico, Simple, Zywoo, whoever, right? Don't. Like, you are not the best when you have the right opponent, the pressure, blah, blah, blah. So
and also think about this, Kassad. It's the actual pressure on Zywoo is enormous. You'd think it's less because he's the best, like he could be the best player and he's on like the best team. The difference is in the past, that excuse was already readily available. Like, but he doesn't have the help, or, the rest of the team. You can't say that this time, guys. Like, he's got all the help. Like, no one could ask for a better squad of players almost to win this major. So, like, I actually think this is why the Vitality one's interesting, because even though on paper they should win, the joke is that's the only result we're going to accept from them. If they even come second, everyone will actually say they failed in some sense.
And he has you said, he has the best, let's say, number 2 right now.
It looks like it, maybe ever. It's fucking sick.
Cold-blooded, figuratively saying, murderer in the fucking game. Like, this guy cannot make a wrong decision. And especially when he has Zywoo on the next to him, he's like, confidence is through the roof.
Yeah.
He can do whatever he wants, and we saw it. He doesn't have FaZe chaos or FaZe flaws behind him, like next to him anymore. He has Zywoo. And then he obviously has like Mezzi and Flames, who are kind of underrated and not really talked about enough because of these two, right?
Yeah, sure.
And then, he has Apex, who is arguably the same level or even a slightly better CS2 IGL than Kerrigan is. Even though FaZe...
No, for CS2, that's fair. Yeah, he's proven it.
Yeah.
Even though in CS2 FaZe had that run of 5-6 finals, what was it? It's Sydney.
I think it was 7, but
yeah, it's Sydney and stuff.
Something like that.
It's not even close to this, right? But the thing is, like, you have to compare those two IGLs. I think Apex comes on top a little bit, because it's not like Kerrigan had bad players. He also had Robs. He did have like bad form Brokey and all of the stuff, but he brought in Frozen, who was like one of the best entries, right? One of the best aggressive riflers in the game for a number of years now. So all in all, I think that, we spoke about like the additional pressure, but still they remain the number 1 favorite by a...
Ooh, do you know something I've just realised, Kassad? Ooh, I actually think we both have initially missed a name, but that is very telling that we missed them. Bro, we both actually went as deep. We went like Aurora MongolZ, who, remember, just never win like deep in the playoffs anyway. So that's all. You're already with that one trying to think of like, it'd have to be like a one-off and they'd have to play better than normal. No one said NAVI. Bro, none of us said that. And by the way, I think it's justified. I actually do think no one thinks they can win. I don't even, put it this way, I don't even think they think they can win.
I lost all hope in NAVI when I watched that loser interview at PGL Astana.
Right.
And Alexi B goes... there was a question, I'm paraphrasing. Banks asks him a question about his boot camp, and he goes, well, that's the only hope we have left. We'll need to ensure magic happens at the boot. The moment he said that, I was like, this team is dead. Like, it's dead. When you are that... I mean, he's honest. Blade was honest,
but you know
what
I mean? Kassad, the problem is, and this will sound weird, but normally I actually do expect players to be delusional. Normally they all still think they can win the tournament and it can work. Even though, as an analyst who's not in the team, you go, you can't, boys. Like, you haven't got the map pool, you haven't got the firepower. Not in a weird way, I almost want them to at least have the self-belief. This sounds to me, if you look at like Lexi V and Blade interviews, like, they sort of just know it's like, let's see who fails to replace them. I don't even feel like they actually believe it can come together as a miracle.
That's the main point why
by the way, what they should do is just bring me in to give them the speech in the locker room, because I'm the only person technically who could make them win. Do you know why? Because I would just go, gentlemen, let me remind you what it takes to win a major. You can fluke them. I'm looking at you, Gel. Not bad. That's the only way you can get them in the right headspace. Exactly.
Off the mic and leave the locker room.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my God. They're so
and then we'll let the result decide whether that actually helped their confidence or destroyed it completely. We'll let the result will figure it out.
You win both ways, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's great for me, either way.
That team is... I can't actually, now that you've said it, because I wrote down a list of teams that I'd potentially want to speak about, and they were all the ones Kassad listed. And the fact that I too put Liquid on the list over NAVI.
There's potential
and in
there.
fact,
There's something you can look at. Yeah, of course.
I think what horrifies me is NAVI didn't even cross my freaking mind.
I know what you mean.
That's scary.
Yeah. I think subconsciously we all did the same thing. It's not because we think their form is bad.
They're even theory better than some of the teams we listed. It's just they're not going to win the major. That's the problem. The question is, can you win the major, right?
We just think that the thing is like the team is so dead within, like that there is no way they can repair themselves, right? And just show that form on major again. I don't think that's a possibility. No. Simply because the team has imploded, completely, and they probably don't like each other. We saw that Ime Alexi thing on Mirage, where like post round thing, like whatever, right? So that's a signal, where Alexi says almost passive aggressive, like, can't go with one round without like saying something, like instead of like telling him shut the fuck up, right? That's what he should have told him, not like you can't go one round without saying something. What does that help?
He put it to Kassad. He did say that more like the frustrated wife in the relationship. You can't bring it one day instead of just being like, shut the fuck up, I'm trying to talk right now.
But it's not even
exactly.
It's not even that for me. Like with NAVI, for me, it was at the beginning of the year, all these teams had firepower upgrades. So like obviously you saw Vitality with Robs. You obviously saw, I thought, MOUZ as well. Like all the changes kind of gave them a lot more.
Almost everyone did. Even Aurora got an upgrade. Yeah, everyone did. Yeah.
Everyone upgraded and you had these individual stars. NAVI, I mean, we've spoken about this forever. They don't have the individual stars, but there was no upgrade. So they were already on the decline after the major. And now suddenly your opposition is just kind of leveled up astronomically. You can't. How do you go up against Vitality or Spirit or
another problem they have for me
Falcons?
is I also do think they have players. This is why I always say that thing that everyone will know now is the dreaded line. Like it's actually the other way around. I'm amazed. The more that I see them bad now, I'm amazed they did do all that stuff last year. It makes it even more incredible to me because normally in CS, I'm sorry, it's like all sports. You have to have the best players to win as well. Like that's just normal. They didn't have that in my opinion last year. And so when I look at the squad now, part of me thinks like, oh, look at how like JL's fallen off. But it's like, wait a minute, why was he so good last year? That's actually ridiculous how many times he had tournaments where he was smurfing and he was like one of the top. He was never like usually the best, but he was like one of the top rated players except the major. So one of the things I would say is if you look at their players, this is why when a team falls apart, players show their actual strength. Because when you are together, you can be the more than the sum of their parts cliche, right? But if you look at this squad when they're playing badly, people like Wonderful and JL do look way off the pace. And when you even see them, they look like they don't believe like that they're going to be good players. They look like they're in a bad patch in their careers, etc. You can't say it, by the way. If you're in a contender, you have to just batten it down and just continue on. But they look like their confidence is destroyed to me.
Yeah, I think you're on point. They say like, let's say Wonderful. You mentioned him, right? A year ago, right? Like, just before the major or during the major they won last year, right? Compare him to like now to Torji, right? For example.
Yeah. No, that would have been an interesting convo.
It's a good one.
Yeah. A year ago, like you could say about like miles ahead of him. Now it's completely different.
No, I'm with you.
Not to mention the other like operas like Zywoo, or Shiro, or even m0NESY for that matter. Like he wasn't like quite close to m0NESY back then, but now they're just like night and day, right? At least he was able to do something.
Yes.
Fail the same thing. Like compare the rifles on the other teams. Donk, Robs and like, Nikos and all these players, right?
Yes.
They were competing and beating actively those teams, winning the major along the way. Right now, they're not even in a conversation to make the playoffs rather than something, meaningful on this one. So changes are coming there. I just hope that Blade doesn't fuck off and go to Liquid or something, right? Because why not?
That's why the actual here's what this get ready, come back into my world. Stop existing in your world of whatever objective reality is and come into my world of subjective reality and all the narratives. That spoiler, you already live in. I invented them all. I invented the Kenny S narrative and the symbol. You all just live in my world. You just don't know it. So you're a fish and you don't know that I am the water you swim in. So anyway, here's the only actual narrative for NAVI. The only narrative for NAVI is does Simple rejoin? Because that's actually plausible. Remember, they have him under contract. He's on loan to FaZe. No one knows. Is that going to work out? If it does, will he want to join FaZe? It's the same with the Falcons thing last year. If it does, but then NAVI has a spot, does he stay in NAVI because they have him under contract? Does he want to join NAVI again? Would Blade want him to be in the team, or do they want to go with this team approach? Like, that's the only real narrative for me with the NAVI one. It sort of connects to the simple FaZe one, but to me, that's also like a side narrative. Like, no one knows yet if any of that will matter yet. I actually do think, though, I said it earlier, the part that people are missing, because I know also that the pressure of majors can sometimes go the other way. In the same ways it can make the great team fail, sometimes it really does make like fluke teams just almost like walk on water and not know, like, I shouldn't even be doing this. And so that's why, even though everyone else has written them off, Sam, I don't write off Aurora and MongolZ. I know it looks mad because you think of Aurora, you think they lost the bloody complexity of that PGL. You think of MongolZ, they lose to anyone in a playoff setting. The second they walk on stage, Zywoo just like instantly shits his pants and slips over. I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, what's going on? And you're like, brilliant. I wish I'd bet on these guys now. But the difference is, when you see the way they play in random games in the group stage, it is possible. They could do it in different ways too. Like I always say, I think MongolZ is the better like real team. They look like they play real CS. But you can never argue against the Aurora firepower. Like they can catch anyone in a BO3, in my opinion. If they get the right day with Xantara's on his form, they get the Anubis pick in there, it's possible. Like there's a real world where they could do, even if they don't win, what if they're in like the semis or the final? That changes the bracket too.
I mean, we have seen worse teams get like deeper.
Oh, for sure.
Deeper,
yeah,
right?
Of course.
Like way worse teams having bad days or good, like kind of form at the tournament,
yes.
Right? So why not Aurora? Why not? Like, why not? They have more than enough firepower, especially with the MongolZ.
I agree.
Like, Aurora, yes, the Xantares is the main, striking, like, pin or whatever you want to call it, right? He is the firepower, like, he's the number one guy there. But MongolZ have more people.
Oh, for sure.
Like, you can name, even their IGL, Blitz can deliver a decent amount of numbers.
The problem MongolZ have is, because they've done the same sort of failures, people act like the team hasn't improved. They actually have even changed the team. First of all, the map pool got way better. They used to just be like Ancient +1 in every series. They can play the map pool. And then secondly, I also agree, the player who, by the way, took the massive step up in the last 9 months is that Mazzinho guy. He went from being like, hey, he's only like 17. Like, I hate those narratives, mate. It's like, can he do anything in the fucking game? Or does he just go, oh, I'm scared at 17? Now he actually has games where he's their best player. Like, he can actually fucking smurf. The guy has aim.
Yeah. So they are, kind of a contender to get deep to the playoffs. I wouldn't put them as a main contender for the trophy, but they can beat someone to disrupt the bracket.
Exactly.
To kind of ruin somebody else's chances.
Yes.
And then by the right choice, they can make it to the semis. And we have seen worse teams winning the fucking
game. Yeah. Oh, by the way, that's also another reason, by the way, where you are right, you can't write Spirit off. Because imagine a world where it's like Aurora that beats like Vitality. Well, then, of course, Spirit could beat Aurora. That's not implausible at all.
Like semis, Spirit against Aurora. Who do you going to give the
No, I agree.
No matter the form, who's going to be the favorite? By a large margin.
Yes.
It's going to be Spirit because of Dom. And he's going to deliver 150 rating again.
Yes.
And then he's going to be in the finals. They're going to be in the major. We're going to change the whole narrative.
Of course.
From Vitality to Spirit and the Dong being the...
By the way, though, I will acknowledge the one part in this conversation, right? We're making like real cases for Aurora and MongolZ to win here. And I will say the FaZe one just does show that Maui did nail it. CS is about cultural impact. The problem there is 1, it's FaZe, 2, Carrigan, and 3, it's simple. Mate,
simple.
What more do you want? Like, I'm in. Please take my money already. Like, we don't even know. For all we know, by the way, that might not even work. They might not even get out the Swiss. But when you just imagine what's possible, it becomes an exciting little, little jalapeno to chuck into the stew, as it were,
I like the fact that FaZe was in our list of potential teams and not Navi, a team that we haven't actually seen because we didn't get to see Rain. What we did see at Dallas was meh. Like, we've got nothing on FaZe. They've had a terrible season, and we're like, oh, but we'd put them over Navi any day. So
that's how you know the power. That's why it is a mixture of cultural impact, and that is what star power is, Sam. Because the real thing is this: even though he hasn't yet shown you it, he showed glimpses in like a couple of the games. But Simple is like some Superman-esque figure where if you've seen what he did at his heights, you never doubt this guy. You just always think, like, he just saved the day. I don't know. Even if it doesn't make any sense, your brain just goes, he can win that 1v4. He can no-scope 2 people. Like, there's a reason why. I always think this. People think he's the GOAT because of the numbers or like, no, it's that if you ever watched him play, and I actually think Dog and MonolZ are the only 2 players I get this sense from now. You watch them play and you think, I can't actually tell you this round is unwinnable. This player could win this round no matter what. And I don't think that's normal players aren't like that. Even great players normally.
It's not cultural impact. It's not star. It's not like fake hype that you do.
My bad.
It's just fucking deduction and logic. It's just straight up logic. logically speaking, like when you compile all the facts and the aspect of not feeling.
All right, yeah, my bad, Kassad. Sorry about all that romance. You're like, listen, it's not what romance, love. No, look, here's a spreadsheet on why I love you. It makes sense. We're in the same financial bracket. I can provide for you. You need a husband. There's not. You can also have romance and dream, Kassad. You know, feel the game, Kassad. Feel it.
It's for girls. But the thing is, like, listen.
Okay.
Logic.
Yeah, let's get back to logic. Okay.
A man and a woman. No, the thing is, like, logically speaking, is like FaZe doesn't feel any pressure.
Oh, of course,
They feel no pressure because they don't have a full lineup. No, they don't care if they lose. They don't care if whatever. Right? They play with skulls, and if they play with Train, they would beat. Would they lose to Heroic? I think.
Yep.
That would beat them 2-0. Right?
I think so.
And probably end up in the playoffs too, and then it's a whole different story. Can you write FaZe off? No, simply because they have so much first experience there in Kerrigan playing the important games, in Rain, obviously, in Frozen, who can deliver a massive tournament.
I mean, everyone's they're mega vets, the whole team.
Yes, and then who do you have? Simple. I just didn't want to mention him because
but they all are mega vets. It makes you a point. Yeah,
it's an obvious thing. And then you have, like I said, Simple, who can perform on a good level, not on his like highest level, because we're saying like on a good level and with like a just like a bad tone or whatever, because we are used to Simple delivering like abnormal numbers. But even with his bad game, it's going to be considered a good game. So are they a playoff team? Yes, but they're more of an entertainment team right now.
Sure. For
this major rather than a contender. So that's the logical parts of it. Like, we can hype and we can dream and I guess romance or whatever the fuck you want to call it, all we want, but the logic and the reason says the other thing, and then you have to bet on logic and reason rather than, fairy tales and romance.
I mean, I'm a girl.
Probably not going to be the tagline for a betting company, that.
No. I want fairy tales and romance. I want FaZe to win the major.
Yeah, of course.
Also, I want them to stay for as long as possible. I don't know if you, Jen, saw the bots video about Heroic, about how he said they were bots. But, like, what I loved about Simple is when he described the different levels and he used his hands. And I don't think this was intentional, but he kind of went bots, humans, and then something else. So FaZe are apparently humans, Heroic were bots. And when he said something else, he was referring to himself and he kept like lifting his hand.
Yeah.
And then my best part was right at the end. He goes, "Oh, I'm just joking." And then stops and goes, "Oh, but there's always a bit of truth in a joke." And I was just like, this is what I want. Like, we want this fun. We want this entertainment. The longer you're here, you make it just as entertaining. The game is cool, but this is what makes it really fun. And also, like, we all want Kerrigan to win a major. He had such a rough time last year. So there's a kind of magic that comes with FaZe.
I don't care about that.
You get kassad because of logic, but the rest of us care about magic. So.
Oh, well, logically, you want him to win so he can be the GOAT. How about that? That'd be pretty cool.
Is that logic enough?
You can't say, like, you want to win, like, you want, like, 10 different people to win. Like, that's just, like, stupid, right? Just, if you have one favorite team, then you cheer for them.
Yeah, of course.
It can be Kerrigan, it can be FaZe, but you
could be Nico winning the major. There's another classic one. Yeah, of course.
Yes, it can be anyone, and you just pick one. You can say, like, I want Nico because of that. I want Kerrigan because he had the right fear. I want Rain because he had the 7 children, or like whatever. Like, it just doesn't, like, just pick one team and go.
Can I not have 2 teams? So can I not have like the logical decision?
2. His point is he can't pick like 15 and then go, it happened when I wanted. Like, could you just pick like 15 teams?
I had this debate with a commentator the other day in a green room because they said, "Oh, I don't follow teams, I follow players." And I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But now I'm standing here being like, well, I'd want FaZe to win because of Kerrigan, which is pretty much the same thing.
Well, that's a reality, Sam. Like,
I know, I'm learning.
Like many people, many teams, they don't have true followers. G2 has them, FaZe has them. Somewhat Vitality maybe, but other like teams, they just the fans are following the players. You think Falcons have any fucking fans? Zero.
Well, I was gonna say I wouldn't.
Fat potato.
I wouldn't follow FaZe if Kerrigan left. So the issue is that I am the person that I thought was crazy for following players, right? So I am basically that person.
No, but I'll give you the counterpunch to that. I do think also what you're describing, this is actually a problem with modern sports, is in the old days in sports, you didn't have constant player transfers every season. You would keep a core of players for like 10 years and you'd add 1 or 2 in. But generally it meant that if you like followed back in the day, like Manchester United or the Lakers in basketball, it was going to be like, like 80% the same team for like a decade. So you could just be a fan of that team because it was both, Sam. You were a fan of the players and the team. The players were the team. So I think you've nailed it there. That's why it's not that you're just a Carrigan fan. What you're really a fan of is the environment he created within FaZe that makes FaZe so exciting. So in some ways, yeah, he's like the main ingredient. So it's true. If he left, he'd be screwed in the same way as if and Alexi B left Navi, it wouldn't be the same squad.
You said you wouldn't cheer for FaZe if he left?
Yeah, I feel like FaZe is Carrigan. After Carrigan,
I know what she means.
You can still like enjoy what he created, like Duncan said, in the years to come when he's out.
Yeah, but don't you think that would get changed by whoever came in instead? Like if you put like Shuey in his spot, wouldn't it kind of change to a different team?
Maybe over time, but still, like you can say that you said Manchester United, they had like where they got like the most fans, I believe, is the 90s and the 2000s when they had Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And then
they were winning.
After he left, yeah, they were winning. Obviously, how many Premier League titles? Like 9 or something, right?
Well, but yeah.
Yeah, but just
loads.
Yeah, making a point. Yeah, the thing is like, and then he left, and they had like 7 different managers, 10, 15, whatever. And people still cheer for them. Like the same people who got into Manchester United back when they were winning, they're still cheering for them, right? It can happen with like esports teams as well, but we have not developed yet, simply because many people are just following players. They followed Nico from MOUZ to FaZe, from FaZe to Falcons, and they're just watching Falcons game because of him, not because they want.
Put it this way, the real question I've always wondered, and we've never had the answer yet, is how many actual, because I wonder about this, Kassad, over the years, how many actual Vitality fans aren't Vitality fans, they're just Zywoo fans. Because, bro, so I always say this, when they don't win, unlike this year, whenever Vitality's like a top 3 or 4 team, but they don't win, it feels like the Zywoo fans are the biggest haters of the other Vitality players. I always go like, what? Normally you'd expect them to make the excuse. They hate the other players, but they all thought Apex was a bomb. Messi needs to get out.
That they're just Zywoo fans.
Yeah, it must be.
Like instead of like when you hate them, like you don't hate a certain like a player that plays with Zywoo, you just criticize the whole team.
Yeah, of course.
And then they get better, you praise the whole team, right?
Yes.
Because you are a fan of the team.
Yeah.
Right? Not just like kick flames, just because like he played 2 bad games and they lost the quarterfinal.
Also, by the way, here's an angle people haven't thought about. Because in everyone's brain, it's like, I feel like everyone in the scene, Sam, is just waiting to see. The first question of the major is, does Vitality win? If the answer's no, then they will actually start to consider the other storylines. But if you actually think already, because there's a world it can happen, like the most obvious one is Falcons, because not only, first of all, they've taken them close a whole bunch of times. I mean, they essentially had them on fucking series point in that first final, remember? But also, when you have Nico and Modesty in your brain, that's like having 2 donks. Like, what if both of them go off? You could win any best of 3, right? What people haven't thought about is this one, Sam. And don't worry, I will be absolutely insufferable if somehow Falcons win. Because all the people who tried to hate on them for the last 2 years, how are you going to hate on them if they're number 1? If they win the major? Like, it doesn't matter. It's Saudi and oil money. They'll have won. They'll have won the major. That's plausible. It is plausible.
The hate point, then.
I'm missing yours, because yours is about some shit where they're never allowed unless they get a time machine to undo what they did the last 2 years. Do you want to know something, Kassad? You'll hate this. You'll hate it so much. I should have saved it for Take Point, but I'll give you it here, my friend. Get ready. I'm going to serve it piping hot for you. Do you know what? Signing Nico and Modesty is amazing GMing. Oh, it makes you mad, doesn't it? Because in your brain, Kassad, you go, but they just have loads of money. Mate, loads of people have money in this scene. Why isn't Vitality signing fucking Nico?
Because they don't have enough money.
No, that's not why.
It's a bottomless pit of money that just spurs from the fucking ground with oil. It's just
loads of people could pay those costs.
No, they couldn't. And also Vitality has Zywoo. And they don't need MongolZ. And MongolZ goes with Nico.
Here's the thing. If Rops hadn't worked out, they could have used the Nico, mate. The point is, other teams couldn't do it. No one else could get this deal done.
It's not about them buying. It's a good move. Great.
Yeah. It's an amazing move, mate. It's about the best move you can make.
In the last 18 months where they sucked and they fucking lost tons of money. That is what I'm hating about them. Not the fact they bought Nico. I don't give a fuck.
Right, let me give you a counterpoint. If you hate the fact that Falcons for the last 18 months wasted all this money, then you must be loving Navi still. It was only like about 8 months ago they were really good. Kassad, right? You love them.
But they don't waste as much as money as
because it's irrelevant. You're talking about... By the way, Kassad, when someone wins in CS, I don't go, let me evaluate their fucking logbook of signings. I go, look at what's in the server. Who gives a fuck about Saudis? Look at what they're doing in the server.
Navi bought players for free. They got one for 40,000 from Sprout.
Yeah.
They got fucking Alexi for nearly free.
You're missing the point. My point is no one cares about Navi last year. No one cares about Navi this year. So we only care about Falcons now.
And they're great GMing.
Do you know the amazing...
the market.
Kassad, the truly great American singer, dancer and composer Janet Jackson once said, "What have you done for me lately?" That's the question I would ask you about Falcons. Because right now, Falcons killed it. Exactly. You like that, didn't you? You like that setup? Well, I'd switch around on you. What have you done for me lately? Exactly. Because right now, Falcons is banging, mate. If they win the major, your boy Nico finally gets one.
Yeah,
finally gets one.
Yeah, just forget everything that happened the last 16 months.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Well, it's funny. It's coming from you, the person who never forgets anything. Suddenly forgot the 16 months of fucking...
I didn't forget it. It just isn't as relevant to how this team plays today.
Do you know what else, Kassad? I'm just waiting. What happens if Falcons wins the major, then they go on a mad run and then they win the Budapest major? Because then no matter what you say, for the rest of time, everyone will talk about how they're on an era and they're one of the best teams of all time.
Yeah.
And the whole of the Falcons organization will be lauded as phenomenal, and no one will remember the shit show that happened last year.
No, Kassad will just be that guy going, but the last 18 months, and then they'll be like, all the parade will be coming through. Get out the fucking way. The major of the era.
Yeah, I would say congratulations, $1 billion later. Yeah, give me a fucking $1 billion. I'll win you a fucking.
You guys think he's joking for the show. He actually is so bitter that when someone wins back-to-back majors with one of his actual personal friends getting to win the World Championship twice and establishes an era, he would be so fucking salty. He would still go, congratulations for winning with $1 billion. You're the biggest hater. You are the biggest hater of all time, Kassad.
Duncan, it's like...
You're a generational hater. You're the donk of haters.
It's like cheating, right?
How is it cheating?
You compare them to NAVI. How can you compare them to NAVI who did what they did?
I just meant that NAVI was really good last year, but we don't talk about that now, do we? We just talk about how bad they are now.
It's a fucking disgrace that you put them in the same bracket.
How is it cheating?
Here's the thing, Sam. What I'm learning is, me and Maui, we were like Zywoo and MongolZ. We're like truly all-time great haters. But even us, when we see Donk walk in the room, we have to go, we've never seen anything like this in CS before. This is a generational hater of the scale we've never understood even before.
Cheating. Falcons are cheating. That's the type.
Yeah, by being too good at GM, I agree. We both agree on that one.
So what are you going to do by the end of next year when Heroic is probably the richest organization of all time because of the amount of players that they've sold? And they go buy like an incredible lineup. Are they cheating?
No, because they made that money. They didn't dig it from the fucking ground. They might as well start buying. They did buy players with the oil directly. How many liters for Nico? How many liters for MongolZ? Gallons or whatever the fuck. Like, it's not even if they bought straight up and start winning straight up, and if they bought it and created a culture within the team and the identity within the Falcons team, I can say, okay, money well spent. You built something.
By the way,
the same way Manchester City did. Manchester City did it.
Isn't that what Falcons is doing? Let's rewind a second. Imagine a world where Falcons is the team that wins the major. You know what will make it better? Let's say they do beat Vitality to do it, right? They knock them out semis, whatever. If they do that, wouldn't you then also acknowledge that they did do something amazing? Vitality's fucking unbeatable, right?
Yes, absolutely. Like, in the moment, they will be probably the team that will be celebrated, right? As a team that's like number one and beat the current number one. They're going to win the major. Nick is going to win the major. MongolZ, whatever, right? They're going to be the best team, but let's look at the bigger picture here. Like, what? Like, are we looking at directly just?
No, let's not. Let's do that. Let's go in. Let's zoom in. Imagine someone just put some crazy bubble bot on your feed. And you just go, look at the composition of the shot and the tree. No, you're zooming in on that shit, aren't you? Let's see some cake. That's what you're doing.
How is that making the org look good? Like, if you are a normal person, the players are good. Nico is good. MongolZ is good. Whoever wins that fucking major is going to be considered as a good player and a player that deserves to win the major, right? But did the org did good in the last 2 years? Compare the orgs. You said it, Sam. Heroic. Who is the better, like, kind of organization overall?
You know what? I actually think you picked a bad example there. Do you know why Heroic's a terrible example, mate? Because they do the opposite of Falcons, yeah? That's why they have no results in the server. Hey, I just sold another player. What am I supposed to do? Look at the pile of money and go, oh my God, that's sick. Like, I want to see them do the server, you bad fucker. I don't want to see them go, look how much I got for some pious. To see some pious play. I'd like to see some pious wear your jersey and shoot people in the video game, you dumb fucks. I don't care.
Case, then, you remember Zywoo's last team, the AAA? Why didn't he just stay there? No, because they offered him money in fucking Vitality.
And are you a massive fan of AAA? You didn't even fucking know that exactly. You don't even watch them. Case closed. You remember my point for me? Case closed. I've got a bigger point.
I remember the 1.6.
Okay.
So I remember.
Okay.
But the thing is, like, Heroic is a new organization. The Heroic is the guys who also with Falcons and some other teams destabilize the market a little bit.
Oh, they also were to play with that. Yeah, they fucked with the Astrala stuff. By the way, here's a bigger topic no one thinks about. And this is one that I'm saving because I will use it if he wins the major, I'm afraid. By the way, one thing I hate in sports, I think it's the worst form of narrative building. I'll give you the example, Kassad. You know when Messi won the World Cup? Before that, that was actually a big thing. Just like Nico with the major, everyone used to say Messi is the best in this other area, but the one thing he didn't do is win the World Cup because all the other all-time, Maradona, they'd all won the World Cup in their careers, right? So at the time, when he won it, everyone who's a Messi fan said, that's it, he's done it. And it's like, I always say this, but he didn't though, because in his prime, he didn't win it. I'm sorry, that will be the same thing if Nico wins now. You know, if Nico wins, everyone's going to say, Kassad, see, that makes up for all the ones he lost. No, it doesn't, because the difference is he should have won those as well. Like, he could have had an even greater career. I actually think for Nico to win the major, look, it's going to be satisfying, but it doesn't make up for all the pain of the ones you lost. Like, this guy could be on like 5 majors. And also, I'll just throw this in there. The other thing that people are missing is this. What if he wins the major, but MONOSY's the one that's the MVP? Then it doesn't even mean as much. The difference is when we say Nico didn't win the major like 5 years ago, we mean when he was the man, bro. When he was like the guy, and if he'd have won, all the credit would go to him. So I also think that narrative isn't as simple as people think. It might be satisfying when he wins, but it's just, by the way, I say the same about my boy Carrigan. He should have won a whole bunch like 5 years before he won that PGL Antwerp one, you know.
Do you know what I think's quite funny though? So you might think that way, and as a fan, we might think that way, but I can legitimately, I haven't spoken to Nico or Carrigan, but I guarantee if they win this major, they don't think that way. They just go, holy shit, I won a major. You know what I mean? Like for them, it's the same.
The Messi comparison, like with the age, is not like close enough, right? The Messi is like 36, well, Nico is 27. In the CS to football age, it's not close, right?
I would say they're pretty comparable. People, how many people win majors in their late 20s, mate?
The thing is, like,
as the star player, very few.
Football 36 is CS 30-31.
Maybe.
Not maybe, you know it.
Because
Duncan's
we're talking about star players here, mate.
That's Duncan's way of, I'm agreeing with you, but
I don't. It's just I can't be telling you every opinion's wrong. I feel like you have some that are wrong. I have to let some of them be wrong.
Let's make something clear as well. I don't have anything against the Falcons players, right? If they win it, it's great for them, right? They are going to be the fucking champions. Always, and I have always spoken against the org that pretends to be the org, some great org with great GMing. It's easy to be the GM when you have unlimited money at your disposal. You know who was a good GM? Fucking the guys from NAVI when they recruited Wonderful and Risted. The guys in Ents when they got Alexei in the first place and Sergey and all that lineup that went to the fucking finals of a major. The lineup, even with Astralis, the prime Astralis, those were the good GMing days, not like unlimited money and then pretend you did something good. You didn't. You just bought people, right? With the money that's not even yours. The money that somebody else gave it to you. You didn't do anything. You convinced somebody to give you a job. You wasted.
Nah, you're making it you're being too reductive. You're being too reductive.
No. You just got a job. You spent what, 5, 6, 7 million?
How much money did Astralis spend the last 3 years, Kassad?
But that's why we're shitting.
No. Just answer the question. How many in the last 3 years? Give me a ballpark figure. Astralis.
5 million, 7 million.
5. That's enough. That could buy this lineup of Falcons.
So
they didn't. They didn't. We're not even talking about them winning the major, Kassad. Yeah, they're not even in this combo.
I'm talking about prime Astralis.
No, but my point is, you just said a line there that isn't true. You went, anyone, if you could just buy them, anyone could make this. No, only one squad could make this team, and it's the Falcons. That's it. You could give other people 50 million, they wouldn't get these players.
The only org who could buy these players is Falcons.
Even if people had the money, they wouldn't go sign, mate.
Name me an org that can buy in the CS fucking circle, in the community right now, that can buy this team.
I just told you. By the way, I could name like 5, 10. First of all, this. That's not even the way it works, Kassad. Like if I can sign a player like MONOSY, that's no longer my budget. What I do, if I'm a big org, Team Liquid, G2, Vitality, Fair, I go to my investors and my sponsors and I say, look, we have a chance to buy like a top 3 player who could be like a Michael Jordan of this game. So can you essentially, will you either invest more or can we take more of the budget? Like maybe we take some from next year's or something in the savings or whatever. Can we use that money to buy this superstar player? And sometimes if it's the right deal, they'll say yes, and you can do that.
Yeah, if you're buying Michael Jordan in 85, not in 95.
No, but that's why I give the example of MONOC. I think actually for a MONOC, anyone could in theory sign that. By the way, it's the reason why, without making this whole side tangent, it's the reason why I look down on G2 so much. Like, to me, there's a million ways you should have been able to keep that player. Like I say, you could have got more money, you could have built a plan, you could have had a great conversation. But they didn't. They somehow fucked every part of that up. So anyway, my point is just I think it's too reductive to make it. Because that's the problem. It's essentially the Zonic topic again, mate. If Zonic wins now, what did he just get bought the players? He still had to coach them. He still had to do something in the game.
Yes, obviously, but we saw that, like what we saw, but it's not about Zonic. It's not even about Zonic. It's about the organization itself. I cannot and I will not give them any credit.
I think we've established that. Let's being as
I tell you what,
these episodes aren't 3 hours long. Let's move to another team.
Let's move to
another team.
To the players, yes.
Let's move to another team.
Falcons is probably going to win the major now because of this, just so I can cut this entire segment and just harass you with it for the next 2 weeks. But we do need to move on. So we've spoken about Vitality and Falcons, but we've mentioned Spirit. On any good day, if Donk shows up, he shows up. But the team that I'm the most curious about is MOUZ. And how we feel about them, because we obviously got to see them in the finals at Dallas. We've seen them a few times. And I would argue that we always see that we talk about the Vitality Falcons rivalry, but I feel like every time I've seen MOUZ play MOUZ play Spirit, they've got Spirit's number. So, I mean, is MOUZ in contention here to make a grand final this time?
Yes, absolutely. I think they're like even higher favorites, or there is a higher chance for me for MOUZ to be in the finals rather than the Falcons.
Really? You'd go that far?
Sorry?
I said you would go that far to say that MOUZ could beat them minus Nico?
Not because of the quality of the players, right? Because if you look at man-to-man, right, then MONOC, Nico are not comparable to almost any player in MOUZ, right? That combination, that's just reality. But in terms of the whole team, the whole squad, and the experience, and the...
You could argue the 5-man roster is better.
Yes, the 5-man roster is definitely
that's fair.
They have and they are more together, longer together. They
absolutely.
More finals together, more playoffs appearances together. Again, the factor of a best of 3 than a best of 5 is a big thing coming into the game against Vitality for MOUZ especially, because we have seen them being very close to beating them even in that best of 5. But like in the last best of 5, that was like
even though it was a 3-0, it was fairly close. It was a reasonably close one.
11,
yeah, I agree.
7 pass 2, then half by. Those are the lessons they need to learn for this match, right?
Yeah.
Right. If you end up in a situation where you have a half by, 1 up 11-7 on dust 2, then you need to you understand what you did wrong last time, and the call will be different. The rotation from the players will, the decision making will be completely different rather than what happened in the Dallas final. So that's a lesson for them. They are a better squad right now than Falcons. Maybe not in 3 months from now or 6 months from now, if Kyosuke comes in and they develop this whole system and everything, right? Which is a fair chance to happen. They can dominate over Vitality.
Yeah, maybe. 100%. We'll see.
It's not impossible.
By the way, that's even an angle we didn't throw in before. If you're Vitality, you also really need to win this match, because even Falcons might get better for all we know. Like, you're going to get this one now while you can. Yeah.
And then... like I said, the whole squad, the structure around the squad, the length, or the experience of the squad is much higher than Falcons, right? They don't have a superstar, which is always a kind of an issue in these games when the pressure is high, the quarterfinals, semifinals, when something kind of the high pressure rounds where you need a superstar, and they don't have that, right? They have Falcons have MONOC, Nico, Vitality have their own superstars. Spirit has Donk. Who does MOUZ have?
But that's what's interesting to me. MOUZ is almost like what NAVI was last year. They just have a committee of really good players that if they play well together, like Torji has that map, then you have Exertion has a map, Spinks is a banger. You have some pretty good players.
NAVI proved it.
Yes, I agree.
Who is their number 1 player right now? Exertion?
It's hard. Maybe Torji. Some people might say. I'm not that big a fan, but
it's difficult to say. Similar.
I agree.
Maybe like in NAVI era last year, mini era, whatever you want to call it, is like JL was the guy, right? And then Wonderful was behind him.
But then you had Bit sometimes was sick. Yeah, it was a great discussion we had last year.
That's why for me, that's the simple reason. If this event was happening 3 months later, with Kyosuke and the whole team being able to practice properly and for a longer period of time, I would put them above MOUZ. But right now, MOUZ is probably the closest one, even though the games say different. They're the closest one to actually beating Vitality in that playoff match for me.
The sad thing I think for MOUZ is people still do that narrative of like they're choking the play. It's like not now they're actually playing like maybe the best team ever though. It's actually you're allowed to lose. And by the way, I don't even think they choke in those games.
No,
they play them really close. I agree. Like I even do think sadly history will just see on Wikipedia 3-0 in that final group. Yeah, that could easily have been a 4-5 mapper. Like it was right there. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm starting to get some pushback for this because people seem to think I hate Spirit.
Okay.
I don't hate Spirit, but I do have concerns for them because I am feeling like teams are starting to get their number, and if Donk isn't just being Donk, they're actually from what I can see, a lot of teams find them pretty easy to shut down. And as great as Donk is he really? I mean, can you really rely on him to carry a team every single game through a major?
I don't think you can rely on anyone, by the way. I actually do think, even though we do that because it's like American sports, build up the superhero guy. I've even seen this, boys. I have literally seen Zywoo be one of the best players in the world and not make playoffs of the major. That's because it isn't about one player. Like, I do really think in the modern day, especially, unless you're in a very weak era, I don't think any one player can always like guarantee the match. And I actually think, you know what? Here's the hot take. I didn't do this, but maybe I'll do it on the next episode. The hot take would be Spirit right now reminds me of when NAVI was coming in the last major. Everyone's going, can they still win? No. My question is this. Is there a world like last major where Spirit fucks around and doesn't even make it out of Swiss? That's not impossible. That is not impossible. Because one of the things I've always thought about their team that actually does remind me of really old school Zywoo is I think the way they rely on that star player is abusive, Kassad. They don't rely on him like, hey, if you play great, we all win. They're like, you have to play great. That's first just check mark. Like, if you don't play great, we don't have a chance. Like, you have to play great so that we can beat wildcard, like, barely 2-0. Like, that's gross to me. Like, and that's why I think, to me, it's already justified they have to do the roster move. Because this player, we already saw at the last major, he played the best statistical major ever, and he needed essentially, like, the fourth best player on his team to have the greatest final imaginable to win. Like, the real scenario here is I don't want to see a major where Donk does drop, like, still, for him, like, a good rating, like a 1.2 rating, but that means they're not even in the playoffs. Like, that's not impossible. Again, think of all the names we just listed. There's plenty of teams can get you. They could lose the game to an Aurora. Maybe even a TL could sneak one off. Who knows? Maybe a FaZe. Who the fuck knows at this point in time? I think the door's wide open for the Spirit. I feel like put it this way, I'll give Kassad credit. I think they can go. The difference with Spirit is I think they have one of the highest like ceilings and floors of the top teams. Like, they could be really bad. They could be pretty good. Who knows?
The problem is that, like, oh my God. The problem is that, like you said yourself, they're relying too much on Donk, right? And even if he delivers a good game, is it going to be enough? It can be enough in one game, maybe. It can be enough maybe in 2 games, but for the whole event, against this competition, like cutthroat like this, with MOUZ.
Oh, and by the way, God forbid he ever has a bad major. Hasn't happened so far. But by the way, every great player's had a bad major eventually. Everyone does. This guy at the moment's just walking. I don't know how he's doing it.
He has a bad game they're losing. That's how I feel.
Yeah, sure.
He's
absolutely.
out, yeah.
I mean, we saw the final against Astralis. They lost the map. It was close. They lost the map to Furia with 2 new players. Like,
oh no, that was it took a lot of work just to win that PGL and had none of the other contenders there, mate. It was really hard work. By the way, I actually, what people still don't get is I'm not mad at Donk for his reaction. I think it's actually a very reasonable reaction. I think he's right that if you played like that, you wouldn't have won against the other teams. The problem is what people are mad at is like, even so, in the moment celebrate. That's what people really mean. But I do think actually he was right. I think he was correct. Like, if I played that way, I'd just think we're not going to win the major if we play like that. That's true.
Yeah, but you don't have to show it at the fucking
game. Yeah, of course. But that's why he is young again. He's young and experienced. We have thrust him into this position.
But
no one else
normally. The other guys, like, I understand him. Like, whatever, he's a child.
No, here's the one that does piss me off, Kassad, and it's obviously fucking Chopper. It's like, mate, you got a face like a slapped ass. You are a fucking washed up. You never was good. IGL, you're getting to win everything because you have basically the Michael Jordan of our fucking game. Maybe plaster a smile on when you get to lift a trophy. You're not supposed to ever lift a trophy, mate. You've had quite a few trophies as well. Like, I agree with you, because if you're Donk, you can be depressed. If you're Chopper, this is as good as it gets for you, mate. Enjoy. Just fucking, get into it.
Do you something like even the other players?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think Chopper was depressed because Donk had just shut them all out, and he's well aware that if Donk goes back to the organization and goes, I'm really pissed off with how everything's happening here, his ass is on the line, because I'm pretty sure Spirit will build around Donk if
I
it
got
came
the
to
news
that.
for you, Sam. It's a performance-based fucking industry. Step the fuck up or get the fuck out.
Exactly.
That's simple as that.
Exactly.
Like, if you're not good enough, you are not gonna win.
Yeah.
That's it. And then you have the best player in your fucking team.
Exactly.
And you allow yourself.
I agree, Kassad. All that matters is how you're playing today, not what happened the last couple of years, just like Falcons.
Yeah, I agree with you. The players
knew
are
it was-
great. The org is ass.
I should have
Billion
ended.
dollars later.
I really should have ended that argument sooner, but I was having way too much fun
It's all
just
good.
sitting
I
here
know. It's
watching
all
it
good,
go
yeah.
on.
Listen, you have
But
to understand that is what people tuned in through a Kassad episode of Feed the Trolls
they
to
knew.
hear that. We gave
Yeah.
the people what they know that one, you know.
Thank
that
you
was
for
like,
that.
are you entertained? It was that moment, wasn't it? You know, we all know.
So there we go. The question is who's going to win the major, and I've left us till right in the end. We all know it's going to be Fallen. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.